What's the point of running 5 restaurants if you don't even know what's really going on in them? That question hit Holden Ashby hard one morning as he sat in his office, staring at the polished wood desk his father once ruled behind. He'd inherited the buffet-style restaurant chain 2 years ago after his father's sudden passing. 5 locations across 3 cities. Profitable. Busy. But lately, Holden had been getting complaints, nothing major, just enough to make him uneasy. Cold food, rude staff. One reviewer even said the place felt soulless. Holden wasn't the kind of guy to panic over online reviews. But he wasn't the type to ignore patterns either. He'd always promised himself he wouldn't just be a name on the wall. His dad had built this place from nothing, and Holden wanted to be better than someone who just signed paychecks. So he picked the most recent location to open Store 4, just outside of downtown. It had the highest revenue but the most complaints. The manager there, a guy named Travis, had been hired just after Holden took over, and they'd never met in person. That worked in his favor. Holden shaved his beard, dyed his hair a few shades darker, and put on a cheap polo and jeans. He got a fake name tag, Greg, and walked in as a customer. The restaurant was part of a large corporate franchise, so none of the staff were likely to recognize the actual CEO, especially one in disguise. He'd never shown his face at this location. He walked in around 5:30, prime dinner rush. The line was long, the lights flickered slightly above the salad bar. A kid screamed in the corner while a tired mom desperately tried to calm him. It was exactly what it looked like, a busy buffet running on fumes. "Welcome," a young host said without looking up. "You paying cash?" "Yeah," Holden said, handing over $20. "Seat yourself. Booths are full." He nodded and found a table near the drink station. The carpet smelled faintly of bleach and old cheese. The food looked lukewarm. The mashed potatoes had that crusty top layer that meant they'd been sitting out too long. He watched the staff from his corner. A few of them hustled, clearly trying their best. One young woman in particular caught his eye short, with curly black hair pulled into a knot. She was bussing tables faster than anyone else, wiping them down and even helping customers carry trays to the trash when needed. But the servers near the carving station? Different story. They leaned against the counter, whispering and laughing, barely watching the food. 2 of them, Holden caught their name tags. Jay and Melanie rolled their eyes every time someone asked for a fresh slice of ham. Then it happened. A man walked in, maybe in his 50s. Messy gray beard, old army jacket, plastic bag in his hand. He moved slowly, cautiously, like he expected to be kicked out. He wasn't bothering anyone, just shuffled over to the cashier and handed over a few crumpled bills. The cashier gave him a strange look, but took the money. He grabbed a plate and headed straight for the hot bar, eyes glued to the food like he hadn't eaten in days. Holden watched as the carving station staff turned toward the man. "Oh good," Jay said loudly enough for people nearby to hear. "Hope he doesn't scare off the real customers." Melanie laughed. "You think he washed his hands this month?" The man froze, halfway to grabbing a roll. "Dude looks like he crawled out of a dumpster," Jay added. Holden's stomach clenched. He looked around. A few customers had heard. Some frowned. Others just looked away. The man slowly set his plate down and walked to the corner of the restaurant. Sat down with nothing but a glass of water. Holden stood up. He walked straight to the man's table and sat across from him. "You okay?" he asked quietly. The man looked up, surprised. "Yeah, I lost my appetite." Holden clenched his jaw. "Stay right here." He walked to the carving station. Jay rolled his eyes. "What? You want to complain about the ham, too?" Holden looked him dead in the eye. "You always mock paying customers, or just the ones who don't look like you?" Melanie responded with a smirk and a shrug. "Relax, man. He's not even—" "Stop talking," Holden cut her off. He reached into his wallet, pulled out his real ID, and placed it on the counter. "My name is Holden Ashby. I own this place, and you just embarrassed a man who paid to eat here in front of a full dining room." Jay's face went pale. Melanie blinked hard, confused. Holden turned to the staff still working behind the counter. "Get your manager, now." A few minutes later, Travis appeared from the back, mid-30s, slick hair, walked like he thought he owned the place. He looked at Holden, then at the ID in his hand. Wait, you're the... Yes, and I want to know how the hell you let this happen in your store. Travis folded his arms, eyes narrowing as he scanned Holden's face. I wasn't told you were coming. You weren't supposed to be, Holden said. That man over there was harassed in front of customers by your staff. They insulted him while he was trying to eat. I want to know why they're still behind the counter. Travis shifted his weight to 1 foot. I'm sure they didn't mean anything by it. We get all kinds in here. Sometimes it throws off the vibe. Holden's voice dropped. That man paid. He deserved respect, not jokes. The vibe doesn't override basic decency. Jay and Melanie stood awkwardly behind the heat lamps, trying to look busy. Holden didn't look at them again. He turned to Travis. I'm not going to ask twice. You're the manager. Either you lead or you step aside. Travis looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Holden's expression stopped him. They're done, he said finally. I'll take care of it. Not later, Holden said. Now. Travis walked over to the carving station. His voice was low, but Holden caught the words. Grab your things. You're off the clock. Jay's shoulders tensed, but he didn't protest. Melanie stared at the floor. Neither said a word as they walked toward the back. Customers nearby watched in silence. Holden returned to the man's table. Sir, I'm sorry for what happened. You didn't deserve that. The man gave a small nod. Didn't expect anything different. I get it a lot. Well, it's not happening here again. The man hesitated, then said, Name's Russell. Good to meet you, Russell. Eat as much as you want. No charge. And if you ever feel like coming back, just ask for me. Russell smiled faintly and picked up a fork. Holden stood and turned toward Travis, who was now waiting by the drink station. We need to talk, Holden said. Office now. Travis led the way past the kitchen into a narrow hallway. The back office was cramped, with a folding chair replacing one of the desk stools. Holden shut the door behind them. You've been managing this location how long? 8 months. How many times have you walked the floor during dinner rush? Travis paused. I usually check in before it starts. I trust the team to handle it. You trust them to mistreat customers? That's not fair. It's accurate. They didn't just make one comment. They humiliated someone who was minding his own business. If I hadn't been here, it would have gone ignored. Travis bristled. It's a high-volume store. I can't be everywhere. And frankly, we get people like that in here all the time. Staff gets burned out. They vent. Holden leaned in. This isn't venting. This is cruelty. And the fact that you're defending it tells me everything. I've hit every quarterly target since I started, Travis said. Labor's tight, but turnover's lower than the other locations. Holden stared at him. You think hitting numbers excuses failing people? Travis looked away. Holden stood. You're done here. Clean out your things. I'll have HR follow up. You can't be serious. You just watched 2 of your employees insult someone who paid to eat here and tried to explain it away. I don't need someone who hides behind excuses. I need someone who gives a damn. Travis didn't speak again. Holden walked out. Back in the dining room, the atmosphere had shifted. The staff were visibly tense, avoiding eye contact. Customers whispered in booths. The young woman Holden had noticed earlier still moved quickly between tables, clearing trays and wiping down surfaces. Her rhythm never broke. Holden approached her as she finished stacking plates on a cart. What's your name? Lena, she said, brushing a curl from her forehead. Did I do something wrong? No, you've been keeping this place upright while others coast. She blinked. Thanks, but I'm just doing my job. You always move like that? Feels wrong to make people wait. We're short tonight. 2 called out. Happens a lot lately. Do you usually get help from the manager when that happens? She gave a small laugh, but there was no humor in it. Travis doesn't really come out during service, unless something breaks. Who decides breaks and shift coverage? Travis, but he mostly just posts the schedule. If we're slammed, we double up or skip breaks. You skipped yours today? Yeah, no one to cover the floor. Holden nodded slowly. How long you been here? 6 months, started part-time, moved to full when someone quit. You like the work? I like helping people, but it's been rough. A few people quit last month. Some of the newer hires don't really care. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but sometimes it feels like we're just trying to survive the shift. Holden looked around. The buffet stations were half-stocked. The drink machine was sticky. A line had formed again at the hot bar. "Who's supervising right now?" Lena shrugged. "I guess me." Holden stepped back. "I'm going to borrow your break room for a few minutes. Can you keep things steady until I'm back?" She nodded. "I'll try." Holden headed to the back again, where a few employees stood awkwardly in the narrow hallway, whispering. He passed them without a word and found the small break room, barely big enough for 4 chairs. He pulled out his phone and called his operations director. "I need a support manager sent to Store 4 immediately. Travis is out. 2 staff were let go. The shift tonight is short and the team's overwhelmed." "You want someone from Store 3?" the voice on the other end asked. "Whoever can be there fastest. And call a deep clean team for tonight after close. This place needs it." "On it." Holden hung up and returned to the floor. Lena was helping an elderly man with a tray. He stepped behind the counter. A tall guy with a hairnet looked up in surprise. "I'm Holden," he said. "I'm helping tonight. What needs restocking?" The guy blinked. Green beans are low. Chicken tenders, too. We're out of trays." "I'll grab more from the back. What's your name?" "Ellis." "You been here long?" 2 years. Mostly kitchen. I don't really do front of house." "You do now? Help me get this food up." For the next hour, Holden worked beside Ellis and Lena, refilling trays, wiping counters, and running back and forth to the walk-in cooler. The work was exhausting. He was sweating through his shirt by the end of it. By 8, the rush had eased. A few families lingered in booths. Russell was gone, but his empty plate was clean, fork neatly placed on top. The replacement support manager arrived shortly after. A woman in her 40s with a clipboard and a look that said she'd seen worse. Holden pulled Lena aside as the floor calmed. "You held this place together tonight. That didn't go unnoticed?" She shifted her weight. "Thanks. I just didn't want things to fall apart. I'm promoting you to assistant shift lead, effective immediately. You'll get the pay bump starting this week. I'll have someone from HR call you tomorrow." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "You earned it, and tomorrow you'll have backup." Lena nodded slowly. "Thank you." Holden exhaled and looked around the dining room. Still rough, still far from perfect. But tonight, something shifted. Not in numbers, in people. And that was the part no spreadsheet could ever measure. By the next morning, Holden was back at the downtown office this time, in a clean button-down, his hair restored to its usual color, his real name on the building's front door again. He didn't sleep much. His legs ached from moving trays and hauling food, but the weight in his chest had nothing to do with sore muscles. Russell's face kept flashing through his mind, not just the humiliation, but the way he accepted it as if it wasn't anything new. That wasn't just a staffing issue, that was a cultural failure, and it was his failure, even if it took him this long to see it. He called an emergency meeting with his regional management team at noon. 5 people arrived on time, most of them with notepads and confused expressions. Holden didn't sit. He stood at the head of the table, hands on the back of a chair. "I went undercover at Store 4 last night," he said without preamble. Several pairs of eyebrows lifted. "I watched guests get neglected. Staff mock a man who came in to eat, and a manager avoid accountability while the floor buckled without him." A heavy silence fell. "Travis is gone," Holden continued. 2 employees were also let go on the spot. The rest of the team pulled through without support, and they deserve recognition. But I'm not here to talk about one location. I'm here to talk about all of them, because if that was happening under our nose there, it's probably happening in more places than we want to believe. He pointed to a woman in a navy blazer, Mara, the district training coordinator. "How often do you visit stores during peak hours?" She hesitated. "Usually midday. I avoid dinner rush, so I'm not in the way." "Don't avoid it anymore. That's when cracks show." He turned to Daryl, a longtime ops lead. "Do we have a formal protocol for reporting customer mistreatment?" "Not beyond the general code of conduct. We tell stores to escalate to HR if something serious happens." "Not good enough. I want a clear, written system in place by the end of the week. Anonymous option included. No one should feel cornered." Daryl nodded, already reaching for his phone. Holden let that sit for a moment before continuing. "From now on, every store will be visited unannounced once a quarter. Not just for cleanliness, for culture. You'll talk to staff, watch how people treat each other, listen more than you explain." Mara scribbled notes. The others sat straighter than they had when the meeting started. Holden scanned their faces. I don't care if the numbers look good. If people are being dismissed, disrespected, or ignored, we're losing more than money. We're losing our integrity. He ended the meeting there and returned to his desk, where a message from HR was waiting. Lena's promotion paperwork had been processed. Her next paycheck would reflect the change. A supervisor from Store 3 had been assigned to support Store 4 for the next 2 weeks, while a new manager was recruited. That afternoon, Holden drove back to the buffet. No disguise this time. As he entered through the front, a young man at the host stand looked up with wide eyes. You're Mr. Ashby, right? Holden nodded. Just checking in. The restaurant was quieter than the night before. A few booths were filled. The floors had been mopped. The carving station ran smoothly, manned by someone Holden hadn't seen during his last visit. He found Lena near the dessert bar, wiping down a tray of spilled pudding. She looked up, startled. Not nervous, just surprised. Didn't expect to see you back so soon, she said. I wanted to follow up. You holding up okay? She nodded. It's calmer now. The new supervisor helped us get prep started early. And we had a full-line cook team today, so I finally got to take a real lunch. Holden gestured toward a small table near the window. You got 5 minutes to sit? She hesitated, then wiped her hands and followed. Once seated, Holden leaned forward. You've seen more of the day-to-day here than I have. I want honest feedback. What's not working? Lena glanced around, then lowered her voice. We've got good people, but a lot of them are tired. Some got used to doing the bare minimum because they thought no one cared. When new hires walk into that, they either get pulled down or burned out. Does the training cover expectations clearly? Only on paper. But after the first week, most people just follow the lead of whoever's been there longer. And if that person cuts corners, so does everyone else. Holden nodded slowly. Would you be willing to help us fix that? She blinked. How? I want to pilot a mentorship program, pair new hires with team members who actually do the job right. You'd be one of the first leads. You'd get training, a bonus, and a say in how it's structured. Lena looked stunned. I've never trained anyone before. You don't need to be perfect, just honest and consistent. She looked down at the edge of the table, then back up. Yeah, I'd do it. Good. HR will reach out next week. In the meantime, document anything that feels broken. I want specifics, policies, habits, even equipment. As they stood, a customer approached an older woman with a polite smile. Excuse me, she said to Holden. I just wanted to say thank you. I've been coming here for years. It felt different today. Quieter, but better. Cleaner. The staff seemed present. Holden offered a small smile. That means a lot. The woman turned to Lena. You helped my husband earlier with his tray. He told me you reminded him of our daughter. Lena's face colored slightly. That's kind of him. The woman patted her arm and walked back to her table. Holden looked at Lena. You're changing this place already. She shrugged. One tray at a time. Back in the kitchen, Holden found Ellis, the line cook from the night before, stirring a pot of gravy. He glanced up. Didn't think I'd see you again, he said. I'm making rounds. Wanted to check in on you. Ellis tapped the ladle against the pot. Food's hot. Nobody's yelling. That's a win. You've been here longer than most, Holden said. Why'd you stay? Ellis thought for a moment. It's not the worst job I've had. Some nights are rough, but I like the rhythm. When it works, it works. You ever think about stepping into a lead kitchen role? Yeah, but I figured someone like Travis wouldn't back that. He didn't really trust kitchen staff for anything but prep. Well, he's not here anymore. If you're willing to train and take on more responsibility, I'd like to see what you can do. Ellis blinked. You serious? I don't say things I don't mean. The cook nodded. A slow understanding dawning. That evening, Holden didn't stay long. He watched from a distance as Lena helped a shy new hire navigate the drink station. He listened as Ellis explained portion sizes to another kitchen hand without condescension. He noticed the quiet respect as the team moved around each other, less frantic, more aware. For the first time in weeks, the complaints in his inbox had stopped. Not because everything was perfect, but because someone was finally listening. And now they knew he was watching, not from a spreadsheet, but from the floor, where it counted. 3 weeks later, Holden returned to store 4 without calling ahead. This time, he didn't walk through the front door. He parked around the side and entered through the employee entrance near the loading dock, passing the dented metal delivery door where pallets of frozen goods were usually dropped. The hallway lights buzzed faintly, but the floor was clean, and the air didn't carry the sour tang it once had. That alone told him something had shifted. He stepped into the break room. A whiteboard hung on the wall, filled with notes, shift coverage, prep goals, even a few handwritten thank you messages between staff. A small stack of clean aprons was folded on the counter next to a first aid kit that hadn't been touched in years until now. He spotted Ellis near the back, reviewing an inventory sheet with a clipboard in one hand, a pen tucked behind his ear. "You're early," Ellis said, glancing up. "Didn't want to miss dinner service. How's the new supplier working out?" "Better product. Chicken's not thawing uneven anymore. We're not tossing half the tray by 7. Still takes extra prep time, but it's manageable. You training anyone yet?" "Yeah, Deshaun started last Monday. Quiet kid, but he picks up fast. Doesn't cut corners." "Good. I want you to write up a draft for a kitchen onboarding checklist. Things you wish someone had told you early on. Doesn't need to be fancy, just real." Ellis nodded once and turned back to his clipboard. Holden made his way to the floor. The buffet stations were stocked. The sneeze guards had been properly cleaned. Food was hot, fresh, and rotated. The difference wasn't subtle, it was night and day. He spotted Lena at the far end of the dining room, helping a young woman probably early 20s navigate the salad bar with a toddler on her hip. The child reached for a spoon and nearly tipped the bowl, but Lena caught it midair and steadied the tray without hesitation. When the woman thanked her, Lena didn't wave it off. She simply nodded and moved on, already clearing another table. Holden waited until she circled back toward the drink station, then intercepted her. "How's the new hire working out?" "Adri, she's great. Never worked food service before, but she listens. Doesn't panic when it's busy. I've been pairing her with Marcus for checkout training." "Marcus the cashier?" "Yeah, he's calm under pressure, and she trusts him. It helps." Holden motioned toward the back. "Walk with me?" They passed through the swinging kitchen doors. A prep cook sliced carrots in silence while the dish pit roared in the background. It wasn't quiet, but it was focused. "I read your notes from last week," Holden said. "The ones about the broken freezer handle and the soda machine pressure issue. Those repairs are already scheduled. Appreciate that. It cuts 5 minutes off every restock when things work right. Adds up. I also saw you flag the inconsistent scheduling for closers. Said too many people were asking for early shifts." Lena nodded. "No one wants to be here past 10. But if the same 3 people are always closing, they burn out. It's not fair. You suggested a rotation policy. I drafted one and tested it last week. Didn't get pushback. People liked knowing what to expect." Holden stopped walking and looked at her. "You're not just holding things together anymore. You're steering the ship. I'm just trying to make it sustainable. It can't rely on 1 or 2 people carrying the whole floor. You want to be the store's operations lead? It's a hybrid role. Floor oversight, training, and liaising with vendors. Comes with a raise. Full time." Lena blinked. "I thought you were bringing in someone external." "I was, but then I watched how the team followed you without being told. That's leadership, not a title." She hesitated. "I'd need some training." "You'll get it. But the instincts, you already have them." She nodded slowly. "Then yeah, I'll do it." Holden stepped into the office and returned a few minutes later with a sealed envelope. "Your offer letter. HR already prepped it." She opened it, scanned the contents, and exhaled. This changes a lot for me." "I know, that's the point." The rest of the evening passed without incident. Holden stayed off the floor, watching from the office security feed, not to micromanage, but to observe. The difference in body language was impossible to miss. Staff moved with purpose, not panic. Customers lingered longer, even after finishing their meals. One of them, a man in a mechanic's uniform, helped an elderly woman carry her tray back to her table. No one told him to. He just did it. At closing, Holden gathered the core team in the break room. Lena, Ellis, Marcus, Audrey, and a few others who had stayed on through the rough weeks. No announcement, no speech, just a conversation. "I came here a month ago expecting to find a failing store," he said. "What I found was a store that had been left to run without leadership. You. He looked at each of them. Turn that around. Not because someone told you to, but because you cared. Ellis spoke first. We didn't want to lose the place. It's not perfect, but it's ours. Marcus added, it's easier to work when you know someone's got your back. Lena just nodded. Holden reached into a bag he'd brought and pulled out 6 small envelopes. Small bonus for each of you, not a handout, just recognition. For stepping up when it mattered. They each accepted the envelope without fanfare. No one opened theirs right away. You've earned the right to shape what this place becomes, Holden said, and I'll be checking in, but not just when there's a problem. As he stepped out into the parking lot, the air was cool. Traffic hummed in the distance. He paused by the front window and looked back inside. The lights were dimming. Staff wiped counters, stacked chairs, and laughed about something Holden couldn't hear. This wasn't just a better shift. It was a better culture. And it had nothing to do with slogans or posters. It was built on the actions of people who showed up, stayed late, and stepped forward when others stepped back. Holden had walked into store 4 expecting to clean house. What he found instead was a team worth investing in, not because they were perfect, but because they were willing to grow. That was something no balance sheet could measure. And now, he finally understood what his father used to mean when he said, you don't build a restaurant with money, you build it with people.